backbenchers, business and staff from the Parliament of Ghana, a team which was led by Mr. Joseph Apia Boateng, MP, chairman and leader of the delegation. The second delegation was for chairpersons of health committees in SADC region, staff and from the Global TB caucus and also partners. And so Madam Speaker welcomed these two delegations.
The second announcement that the First Deputy Speaker made yesterday was to inform the House that the Zambia Parliamentary Caucus on Tuberculosis would be relaunching the TB caucus on Tuesday, 29th October 2024 at 18 hours at Protea Hotels, Marriott, Arcades, a shopping mall in Lusaka, and that the Honorable Madam First Deputy is the occasion.
And in that regard, Madam First Deputy Speaker encouraged honorable members of Parliament who were interested in joining the Zambia Parliamentary Tuberculosis Caucus to attend the important event on voluntary basis.
The other announcement that Madam First Deputy Speaker made yesterday was to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Faithwood Christian School in Choma District, and Madam First Deputy Speaker on behalf of the National Assembly did warmly welcome the visitors to the National Assembly of Zambia.
Right, and further, Madam First Deputy Speaker also recognized in the presence of the Speaker in the public galleries a community of community leaders from Nalolo Parliamentary constituency, and that Madam First Deputy Speaker also on behalf of the National Assembly did warmly welcome the visitors to the National Assembly.
The leader of government business in the House presented the business statement for the period 29th October to 8th November 2024.
And two matters of agent matters without notice, understanding order 142 were raised, both of which were inadmissible. And however, for record purposes, Mr. Smumba, Nakonde member of Parliament, did raise a matter on when farmers who supplied maize to Food Reserve Agency would be paid, and the matter, like I indicated, was inadmissible. While Mr. Chewe also made raised a matter on the poor mobile network and internet connectivity being experienced in Lubansenshi constituency, and the matter was equally inadmissible.
After those two matters, the House did proceed to consider ministerial statement, and this ministerial statement was rendered on the floor of the House by the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, and it was a statement on the alleged attack on the 60th Republican President, Mr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu's motorcade by suspected UPND cadres on Sunday, 20th October 2024 in Chingola District. The minister refuted the allegations on the attack of the 60th Republican President's motorcade and clarified what led to the fracas on the material day. And we did see quite a number of members of Parliament making follow-up questions seeking clarity from the minister.
After that, the House moved on to consider questions for oral answer, understanding order number 80, and this is questions of an ordinary nature, and the question numbered from number 58 running through to number 64, out of which the House then moved on to consider a motion in which they adopted the report of the committee the report of the committee on planning and budgeting, which was on the annual borrowing plan for 2025 financial year for the fourth session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 17th October 2024, and this motion was moved by Mr. Chatila, and the House accordingly adopted the report.
So basically that's the business that was considered on the floor of the House yesterday, and just after a short break we'll be able to interest you to what is expected to be considered on the floor of the House today. So now, take a short break.
My eParliament mobile application. My eParliament is a mobile application developed by the National Assembly of Zambia in order to bring Parliament closer to you. You can download and install My eParliament from App Store or Play Store. Once installed, you can raise your concerns.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying tuned. We expect the House to resume business in a short while, and the House will resume with announcements if there will be any. After that, we expect urgent matters without notice if there will be any, and then a ministerial statement that will be presented by the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock on the status of deep tanks in the country is also expected to be considered.
The House is also expected to consider 7 money bills, and these will be presented by the Minister of Finance. And the first one is the Income Tax Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 22 of 2024, and the bill seeks to amend the Income Tax Act.
The second bill is the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2024, which seeks to amend the Value-Added Tax Act.
The other bill that is expected to be considered on the floor of the House is the Customs and Excise Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 24 of 2024, and this bill seeks to amend the Customs and Excise Act.
Then we'll have the Mobile Money Transaction Levy Bill, National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2024, a bill which seeks to provide for the administration of the Act, provide for the maintenance of records of mobile money operations, provide for inspection of mobile money operations, repeal and replace the Mobile Money Transaction Levy Act of 2023, and also to provide for matters incidental, connected with or incidental to the foregoing.
The fifth bill that is expected to be considered on the floor of the House is the Zambia Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 26 of 2024, and this one seeks to amend the Zambia Revenue Authority Act.
Thereafter, the Minister will also present the Property Transfer Tax Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2024, a bill which seeks to amend the Property Transfer Tax Act, and the other bill that is expected to be presented, the Insurance Premium Levy Bill, Amendment Bill, National Assembly number 28. Thereafter, we'll move to questions for oral answer. Just about now, we take to the floor of the House.
Parliament, Mr. Speaker.
And sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for our right. We want freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by those to blend. Let us all our people join as one, brothers under the sun, oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry, dignity and peace in Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise be, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, Zambia. Remain we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliament for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessings descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and effective as a manner to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and those whose interest you've committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, I have an announcement to make. I have received communication to the effect that in the absence of our honor, the Vice President who is attending to other government businesses, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, Honorable Jacob Jack Mwimbu, MP, has been appointed acting leader of government business in the House from today, 30th October 2024, until further notice. I thank you. Honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from North Park School in Chiwombo District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I welcome our visitors in the midst. I thank you. Urgent matters without notice. The Honorable Member for Kana.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on an urgent matter without notice, which matter I direct to acting leader of government business in the absence of the Minister of Mines. Mr. Speaker, the UPND was voted on the premise that they will create opportunities for jobs for young people and many other opportunities for employment and the like. Today, reports abound of so many young people that have been buried alive. Just today, Mr. Speaker, 8 young people in Chingola have been buried alive, 6 of whom are members of one family. Not long ago, over 6 young people in my constituents were buried alive. Not long ago, many more in Chingola were buried alive some of whom have not even been discovered today. Is the Minister of Mines in order, Mr. Speaker, to allow young people to continue losing lives in this fashion, as opposed to continuing fighting with a young boy in Chingola Code Sparks? Shouldn't this be the issue the Minister of Mines should be addressing? I seek your indulgence, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, the issue that you've raised is the issue that government is well aware about. I think the Honorable Minister was on the floor of the House, came to issue a ministerial statement, and I'm sure government is handling it. So, Honorable Member, this is not a new occurrence that has just happened. May we proceed? The Honorable Member for Chairman North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The urgent matter without notice is directed at the acting leader of government business. Mr. Speaker, Rate Malawans, armed with all sorts of offensive weapons, have blocked the road. That's the Chama, Kanyelele, Muyombe and Mafinga road. And Mr. Speaker, this road is very, very important trade route. As I'm speaking from last night, no trucks, no any vehicle has been allowed to pass using that road, because these Malawans, they have taken over that stretch. They are not allowing any vehicle. And the background of this matter, Mr. Speaker, is that Chama authorities received a message that a certain traditional leader was allocating land to Malawans. So the officers went there and apprehended a traditional leader and some suspects. So the traditional leader and suspects are currently in custody. But these Malawans are annoyed that they will only reopen that road once their colleagues have been released from custody. So that is the situation, Mr. Speaker. Vehicles carrying maize from Kanyelele, FRI maize to Chama Boma, they cannot move. So literally they have taken over the road, and the police seems to they are inadequate. They are not able to contain the situation.
Honorable Member, your time is up. The matter you've raised is important, but may you put in an urgent question? The Honorable Member for Mukushi South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My matter of urgent matter without notice is directed to the Minister of Infrastructure. And before I raise that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to send my sincere condolences to the family who have lost their loved one because of not having done the bridge. Mr. Speaker, the bridge, which is Mukushi River, was supposed to have been done 3 years ago, and it was fully financed. To date, that bridge, Mr. Speaker, has not been done. And Minister, you remember that I have engaged you on several occasions over this bridge. Now that you are happy that we have lost your life, because that was your intention, I've been engaging you.
Honorable Member, may you take your seat? May you take your seat? May you take your seat? Honorable Member, as much as you'd want to raise very important issue, but avoid being confrontational to other honorable members. The fact that other members choose not to react the way you do, that does not mean that they are not capable of doing so. So avoid, desist from being confrontational. That's my advice. Present issues as they are. And avoid debating whilst seated. When I'm guiding, you have to follow my guide.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you so much for your guidance. Mr. Speaker, it's very heartbreaking to lose a life when it is supposed to be protected. This bridge, Mr. Speaker, was funded 3 years ago, and up to today, the bridge has not been completed. Honorable Minister, what is your position over the Mukushi River Bridge? Tell us so that I go and inform the people of Luano whether you have refused to work on that bridge which you have financed yourselves, or you are ready to go and work on that bridge. I seek your serious ruling, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. May you put in an urgent question, and the Honorable Minister will come to respond accordingly. Let's make progress. I have permitted the Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock to present a ministerial statement.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank you for giving me this opportunity to render a ministerial statement to update this august House and indeed the nation on the status of the deep tank construction and rehabilitation program in my ministry. As you may recall, the ministry assured the House that it was conducting a comprehensive review of this program. I am pleased to update this House on the status of the same. In keeping with the new standing orders of the House as provided for under Standing Order 77-4, which states that a question shall not be admissible if it is subject matter as rendered in a ministerial statement during the same session or is likely to be addressed in a ministerial statement already approved by the Speaker for issuance by a minister or the Vice President. It is my expectation that this ministerial statement will address all questions relating to deep tanks and that we can therefore put the matter to rest. Mr. Speaker, deep tanks are the preferred method of dipping large numbers of livestock, especially cattle. If constructed and used correctly, dipping ensures complete wetting of the animal, especially in important areas such as inside the ears and under the tail, where ticks are usually found. Dipping is crucial to guarantee good health of animals in Zambia. This can be done by ensuring that the country has a deep tank density and coverage that is adequate in servicing all communal livestock farming areas. The House may wish to note that the main purpose of facilitating the construction and rehabilitation of deep tanks was to mitigate against tick-borne diseases, which are the major contributor to livestock morbidity and mortality in Zambia. The control of tick-borne disease in Zambia is still mainly dependent on the control of the tick vector by dipping or spraying cattle using acaricides to kill ticks. Other methods such as immunization against the theoresis are also used. Mr. Speaker, I've been informed that tick-borne diseases cannot be eradicated because of the persistent presence of ticks in the environment. However, occurrence of the disease can be minimized through dipping and spraying of livestock. In this regard, government shall endeavor to control and prevent tick-borne diseases through encouraging the regular and effective dipping of animals. Deep tanks are critical because when effectively deployed, they can assure optimum disease management and control. Hence, dipping is beneficial to health of animals and ultimately their productivity. It is therefore important to note that dip tanks are key to the growth of the livestock sector, which contributes an estimated 3.5% to the agricultural gross, 35% to the agricultural gross domestic product, GDP. Controlling tick-borne diseases is also key in assessing export market for livestock products and byproducts. In this regard, the New Dawn government of His Excellency Dr. Hakainde Hichilema, the President of the Republic of Zambia, is determined to remodel the delivery of dip tanks to enhance service delivery to our people. Mr. Speaker, just a brief background. I'll give a brief background now. At the time when the rehabilitation and construction of dip tanks was conceived in 2014, the target was to construct and rehabilitate 722 dip tanks across the country. However, this target was revised downwards to 467 in 2016 after guidance from Cabinet. Since the inception of the project in 2014, my ministry has completed 253 dip tanks out of the 467, meaning that 214 are not completed. The total cost of the dip tank construction and rehabilitation program was estimated at 58 million. Against this amount, a total of 43 million was being paid to contractors, leaving an outstanding balance of 14 million kwachas. In 2017, government policy on construction of infrastructure projects changed. The policy shift entailed that only infrastructure that had reached 80% and above were to be completed and paid for. As a result, 214 dip tanks have remained uncompleted despite the initial payments that were made towards their construction. It is, however, disheartening to note that of the 253 completed dip tanks, 90% are not operational due to several reasons, including but not limited to lack of community ownership, lack of water resources, and poor workmanship. Mr. Speaker, it should be noted that after undertaking a detailed review of the program, government owes 200 contractors a total sum of 14 million kwacha against the total contract value of 58 million kwacha. Government is liquidating these arrears through its ongoing debt dismantling program under the Ministry of Finance and National Planning. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that the implementation of the dip tank program has not been successful in the past due to poor contract management and monitoring. As a responsible government, we have remodeled the deep tank infrastructure development program to be community-driven. This will ensure that contract management and monitoring is done at community level under the supervision of local authorities. Mr. Speaker, this august House will be interested to learn that under the remodeled program, the ministry shall proceed with the construction and rehabilitation of dip tanks using the following measures. 1. In line with decentralization policy, my ministry has developed veterinary services which include construction and rehabilitation of dip tanks to local authorities so that this function is community-led and demand-driven. We believe this will lead to effective management of the facilities and will ensure community participation in the construction, rehabilitation, and ownership of the dip tanks. My ministry will, however, continue to provide technical support such as standard dip tank designs and best practice on their operations. 2. With regard to the 214 uncompleted dip tanks and depending on established community needs, my ministry shall undertake a joint reassessment of the works done with local authorities so as to determine the best methodology for completion and operationalization of these uncompleted dip tanks. And 3, finally, provide policy guidance and research into tick-borne disease control. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, tick-borne disease control is a huge operation It requires substantial resources which cannot be provided by my ministry alone. We therefore call upon all stakeholders using a multi-sectorial approach through the digitalization agenda to partner with us to effectively control tick-borne diseases. In this vein, I would like to urge all honorable members of this august House to seriously consider using their Constituency Development Fund, CDF, to support control of tick-borne diseases through the construction and rehabilitation of the tanks. I thank you.
Honorable members are now free to ask questions on point of clarification on the ministerial statement presented by the Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock. The Honorable Member for Kabwata.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, the 214 deep tanks that haven't been completed, I would have loved if you had actually mentioned what will happen to the contractors that were paid and actually abandoned the works. But my question is, how much does it cost to construct one deep tank? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Honorable. Mr. Speaker, on average, we are looking at 100,000 kwaches, depending also on the soil conditions that you encounter. I submit.
The Honorable Member for Feira.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to find out when the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock will start, working on the deep tanks in Feira constituency. I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, we have scheduled that the visit to all these uncompleted structures will be carried out in the first quarter of 2025. Submit.
The Honorable Member for Kalabo Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The deep tanks, 90%, according to the minister, was saying they were not operational due to various reasons. And one of the reasons was saying was public ownership. However, Mr. Speaker, I would want to find out from the Honorable Minister how much effort is the government putting in to create awareness in the local farmers so that they make use of the deep tanks to improve the livelihood of these animals. How much effort has the government done? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I did indicate that my ministry has decentralized and passed on these responsibilities to local authorities. So everything will be done at local level, local district level, so that people can be sensitized and ensure that these structures are put to good use. I submit.
The Honorable Member for Gwembe.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Minister, you have indicated the challenges about deep tanks. Are there plans by your ministry, in the absence of the deep tanks, are there any plans to ensure that in another form, dipping continues so that we don't lose our animals?
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you. There are so many control ticks. As I indicated, the best way is to provide deep tanks. However, you can do, spraying using, sprayers and airless sprayers.
The Honorable Member for Nyimba.
400 plus deep tanks were supposed to have been constructed. Do you have an idea how many of those were supposed to have been constructed in Eastern Province, particularly? I constituency, which is Nyimba, because I'm just taken aback that out of the 400, my constituency not regarded. So maybe I've missed it. Do you have an idea?
And livestock.
Thank you, Honorable. Unfortunately, at the present, I don't have the actual figures of how many deep tanks were constructed in Nyimba constituency, but I can always get back to my office and give you the actual figures and the status.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The technology for dipping is one of the obsolete technologies that are being discarded and discouraged. Spraying and a direct injection is the common practice for controlling ticks. Now that government is owing 200 contractors, a total sum of 14 million kwacha, or is it 14 million kwacha or $14 million? Kwacha, okay. Would you consider to actually pay these contractors, even though we are not going to execute, we are not going to construct these deep tanks? I think.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Engineer, for that interesting question. It's a question of looking at the contracts, the way they were framed out. You find that most of these contractors did not perform, but they had already received advance payments. This was, endemic in the previous regime, but we are trying to correct this thing. Those that have got genuine claims and we verify the figures, we'll be able to pay them and move on. I submit.
Thank you. We make progress. Presentation of government bills. The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now resolve into Committee of Ways and Means to consider the raising of supply.
Honorable Minister, maybe you can try to flip through its presentation of money bills.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to present a bill entitled Income Tax Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 22 of 2024. The object of this bill is to amend the Income Tax Act.
Hold on. You end there and let the bill be read the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to present a bill entitled the Income Tax Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 22 of 2024.
Let the bill be read the first time. Yeah, but yes, let him read.
Mr. Speaker, the object of the bill is to amend the Income Tax Act so as to A, permit the deduction of the skills development levy as a tax-deductible expense in advance of its payment to align it with the accrual principles that apply for other deductions under the Act. B, extend advance tax on income at the rate of 15% to remittances and exports above $2,000 US or kwacha equivalent made through a commercial bank by an account holder without a valid tax clearance certificate. C, provide an exemption on withholding tax on royalties. D, increase the bands for presumptive taxes by 20% for motor vehicles used for the carriage of persons. E, increase the corporate income tax rates from 15% to 20% for export of non-traditional products and value addition to copper cathodes. F, provide a waiver for a penalty arising from an underestimation of a provisional return. G, mandate a person or a partnership declared to be an agent to remit withheld tax before the return date is due. H, maintain the withholding tax rate on winnings from gaming, lotteries, and betting at 15%. And I, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing.
Let the bill be read the first time.
The Income Tax Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 22 of 2024.
The bill stands referred to the Planning and Budget Committee. The committee is required to submit the report of the bill to the House on Tuesday, 21st November 2024. Honorable members who wish to make submission on the bill are free to do so within the program of work of the committee. Next, the Honorable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Which is the next one? Value-added tax. Mr. Speaker, I beg to present a bill entitled the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2024. The object of this bill is to amend the Value-Added Tax Act so as to A, provide conditions for exemption of a taxable supplier or category of taxable suppliers from using the electronic invoicing system. B, revise conditions for input tax claims or deductions. And C, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing.
Let the bill be read the first time.
The Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2024.
The bill stands referred to the Planning and Budget Committee. The committee is required to submit its report on the bill to the House by Tuesday, 21st November 2024. Honorable members who wish to make submission on the bill are free to do so within the program of work of the committee. Next, the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to present a bill entitled the Customs and Excise Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 24 of 2024. The object of this bill is to amend the Customs and Excise Act so as to A, revise the rates of customs and excise duty payable on certain goods. B, revise the list of goods subject to star tax at importation. C, introduce 10% excise duty on betting. D, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing.
Let the bill be read the first time.
The Customs and Excise Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 24 of 2024.
The bill stands referred to the Planning and Budget Committee. The committee is required to submit its report on the bill to the House by Tuesday, 21st November 2024. Honorable members who wish to make submission on the bill are free to do so within the program of work of the committee. Next, the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to present a bill entitled the Mobile Money Transaction Levy Bill, National Assembly Bill 25 of 2024. The objects of this bill are A, provide for the administration of the Act. B, provide for maintenance of records of mobile money operations. C, provide for inspection of mobile money operations. D, repeal and replace the Mobile Money Transaction Levy Act of 2023. And E, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing.
Let the bill be read the first time.
The Mobile Money Transaction Levy Bill, National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2024.
The bill stands referred to the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labor Matters. The committee is required to submit its report on the bill to the House by Tuesday, 21st November 2024. Honorable members who wish to make submission on the bill are free to do so within the program of work of the committee. Next, the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to present a bill entitled the Zambia Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill 26 of 2024. The object of the bill is to amend the Zambia Revenue Authority Act so as to provide immunity for members of staff of the authority.
Let the bill be read the first time.
The Zambia Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 26 of 2024.
The bill stands referred to the Planning and Budget Committee. The committee is required to submit its report on the bill to the House on Tuesday, 21st November 2024. Honorable members who wish to make submission on the bill are free to do so within the program of work of the committee. Next, the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to present a bill entitled the Property Transfer Tax Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2024. The object of the bill is to amend the Property Transfer Act so as to A, revise the definition of intellectual property, B, allow a moneylender and building society to use the actual price received in determining the realized value for the disposal of foreclosed property, and C, to provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Sure.
The Property Transfer Tax Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 27 of 2024.
The bill stands referred to the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labor Matters. The committee is required to submit its report on the bill to the House by Tuesday, 21st November 2024. Honorable members who wish to make submission on the bill are free to do so within the program of work of the committee. Next, the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to present a bill entitled the Insurance Premium Levy Amendment Bill,
National Assembly Bill number 28 of 2024. The object of the bill is to amend the Insurance Premium Levy Act 2015 so as to strengthen compliance by providing the use of an electronic invoicing system.
Let the bill be read the first time.
The Insurance Premium Levy Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 28 of 2024.
The bill stands referred to the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labour Matters. The committee is required to submit its report on the bill to the House by Tuesday, 21st November 2024. Honourable members who wish to make submissions on the bill are free to do so within the program of work of the committee. Let's make progress. Questions for oral answers under Standing Orders 80. The Honourable Member for Kasama Central. By prior arrangement, Honourable Chisenga George will ask.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Before I ask the question, I just want to register our sincere condolences, Mr. Speaker, on the demise of the young men who made their fate, the soccer players from Northwestern Province. We want to register our sincere condolences to the Minister of Northwestern Province and the people of Northwestern Province. On behalf of Kasama Central, Mr. Speaker, question number 65.
The Honourable Minister of Green Economy and the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Swangile Mwamba, Member of Parliament for Kasama Central, has asked the Honorable Minister of Green Economy and Environment.
Honorable members, Honorable Chisenga, you asked the question on behalf of Honorable Member for Kasama, but there's some noise coming from Honorable Mduvira and the team there. Let's ensure that there's decorum in the House. Okay. May the Honourable Minister continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Swangile Mwamba is asking the Minister of Green Economy and Environment the following questions. A, whether the government has any plans to sell staff houses for the Forestry Department in Kasama District to sitting tenants. B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. C, what is the cost of each house, what the cost of each house will be. D, if there are no such plans, whether the houses will be rehabilitated. And E, if so, when. Mr. Speaker, our answers are as follows. In response to the question whether the government has any plans to sell staff houses for the Forestry Department in Kasama to sitting tenants, I wish to inform the Honourable Member that A, government has no immediate plans to sell staff houses for the Forestry Department in Kasama District to sitting tenants, as the houses are located within Kasama National Forest P47, which is a gazetted forest reserve. B, as indicated in A above, there are no plans to sell the staff houses, hence government cannot commit to a timeline. C, with regards to the cost of each house, the cost of the house can only be determined once the Ministry of Infrastructure and Urban Development conducts evaluation of the houses in question. However, I wish to state that it is not in the interest of government and the public to sell the said houses. D, if there are no such plans, whether the houses will be rehabilitated. Mr. Speaker, the houses are still government property and are subject to rehabilitation as and when resources are available and as and when the need arises. E, if so, when? Due to the situation we are in, the financial difficulties the country is in owing to the disaster occurrence, resources have been diverted or redirected to respond to the affected parts of the country. Therefore, the government can only consider rehabilitating the said houses when the fiscal space improves. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lukasha.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, successive governments have been implementing the policy of housing empowerment for citizens from 1997 up to now. I just wanted to find out what has motivated this government not to follow suit to ensure that access to accommodation, which is a universal right, is enjoyed by these people who are within that area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Green Economy and Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, this government would want to empower its citizens with housing empowerment, but this must be done in a right way. I don't think that it would be prudent to sell houses that are sitting in a protected area. These houses, like we have said, will remain institutional houses for now. We have no intentions to sell them, particularly that they are sitting in a protected area. I want to also just emphasize that the housing ownership, while it is important, it must be done in such a way that people must not demand for what is not on offer. It's better to wait for government to offer. If government is offering houses to sell, then the sitting tenants would say, yes, we have the right to be given the first choice, but where the houses have not been offered, we cannot say, why are we not empowering people? Because we don't have the intentions to sell those houses, particularly for the reason that I've already given, that they are in a protected area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next question, the Honourable Member for Chembe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 66.
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the Honourable Member for Chembe, Honourable Mpundu, is asking the Ministry the following questions. A, why the construction of Chembe Boarding Secondary School in Chembe district has not been completed. B, what the cost of the outstanding works is. And C, what the time frame for the completion of outstanding works is. We answer as follows, Mr. Speaker. A, the construction of Chembe Boarding School in Chembe district, Luapula province, has not been completed due to funding constraints to the project. Number B, the cost of outstanding works is 137 million kwacha, 870,491 kwacha 44 ngwe. C, the time frame for the completion of the project is 18 months, subject to availability of funds. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any supplementary question? The Honourable Member for Ron.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me first to show some accolades on the Minister of Infrastructure. Minister, we are very happy in Luancha District, Ron constituency. The road, as we are talking, has reached the post office, meaning that things are happening. We want to congratulate you on that, Minister. Minister, you have said over 100 million is required to complete this school. Could you be, in fact, he was going to do the gate, we know that very well. Minister, could you state as to, in terms of percentage, what is the percentage that have been done on this school? So that probably maybe the Honourable Minister for, the Honourable Member for Chembe can maybe try to see where he can touch that to equalize so that the school can be completed. I submit.
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, and I thank the Honourable Member for Ron, Honourable Chibuye, for those kind comments on the work that's being done on Fisenge to Luansha Road. And for those interested, on the Masangano to Fisenge, we expect that to be completed by December. So we are doing what we can. Now, with respect to the question that he has asked, maybe to give him more details, he's asking for a percentage, but it's not one of these questions where I can refer the Honourable Member for Chamber. I can't even see, there he is, yes, where I can refer him to CDF. The amounts concerned are higher than what CDF is. But let me just give more details so that we can take it from there. Now, due to lapse of time, the contract expired and it was re-tendered. And the direct bidding was used, and the same contractor, which is Power Flex Limited, are the ones that got the re-tendered works. The tender has been concluded, and the draft contract is awaiting Attorney General's clearance. All contracts, before they are signed, they have to go to the Attorney General. So the initial contract was awarded in 2013 at a contract sum of 49,022,412.96 ngwe. And the 20,385,000 has been certified and paid to the contractor for the initial works. The completion period was 18 months from the time of commencement. However, due to escalation of prices of building materials, construction, and administrative costs, the contract sum was revised to 62,765,591 kwacha, and the contract period was extended several times. At the time of termination, that's a question that Honourable Member Furon is asking. At the time of termination, the retendering of the contract, progress of works was at 50%. Site activities will commence within this quarter of 2024. Still, our aim, Honourable Member for Chembe, is to have this contract completed by the fourth quarter of 2025. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Chembe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, you are aware that this is the only expected boarding school to be in Chembe. And most of our children in Chembe, especially the girl child, they are so vulnerable, especially that they move long distance to access secondary education, and they rent in villages. And this has made it to the rise of unwanted pregnancies. On that score, why don't you work on the necessary facilities like dormitories, ablution block, part of the classrooms, such that the school can partially be opened? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me state that the commitment of this government, New Dawn government, is to ensure that projects that were started are completed, but that is within the availability of resources. The Honourable Member may care to know, as I stated in my reply, in my answer, that this project was started in 2013. That was 8 years before I became Minister of Infrastructure. But the problem of uncompleted schools is throughout the country. And the need for girl children to be catered for, the need for projects to be completed is great. The honorable member for Chembe may wish also to know that his neighbor, the honorable member for Isoka, Honorable Nakapond, has a similar problem with the Michael Chirufia Sata school, which similarly has not been completed. And similarly, when I visited, it also has issues of the girl child who are right now at a boys' school with all the problems that are associated with that. So bear with us. In your case, we have stated when we think this project will be completed, and that will be done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Next, the Honourable Member for Solwezi East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's always a pleasure for the people of Solwezi East to ask a question. Question number 67. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Information and Media.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. And sir, as I respond to this question, allow me to commend His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, for steering the nation to greater heights that only last week, Afrobarometer ranked Zambia as the best performing country on the continent in terms of uplifting the livelihoods of its people. This is despite the drought and the national disaster and emergency situation we find ourselves. We must be proud about this. It is for all of us as a people. We commend the President. Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member of Parliament, Honourable Dr. Katakwe MP, would like to find out in A, how financially viable the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation is in meeting its operational costs, and in B, whether the 5-kwacha TV levy is sufficient to sustain its operations. And A, on how financially viable the ZNBC is in meeting its operational costs. Mr. Speaker, ZNBC's liquidity position is inadequate to meet its operational costs, as the total revenue generated is insufficient to even meet its direct costs. Direct costs comprise staff and other costs directly related to programs, engineering, and marketing and sales directorates. The monthly average sales revenue is 9.5 million kwacha, and TV levy is 3.8 million kwacha. However, the average monthly operational expenditure is 20.2 million kwacha. The poor liquidity position has resulted in backlog of financial obligations, including non-remittance of statutory obligations. In B, Mr. Speaker, on whether the 5-kwacha TV levy is sufficient to sustain ZNBC operations, the 5-kwacha TV levy, Mr. Speaker, is inadequate to sustain the operations of ZNBC. And Mr. Speaker, this particular levy has been standing at 5-kwacha for a long time. I would like to indicate that the Ministry of Information and Media is currently reviewing the efficacy of this particular amount, but being cognizant of the situation we find ourselves as a nation, that we have a national disaster. But in terms of running the operations of ZNBC as a going concern and viable business, the ministry is paying attention to reviewing this amount, and at the appropriate time, the nation will be addressed of what conclusions we will have made as recommendations. With your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, I can proceed to respond also to the question raised by Honorable Dr. Katakwe, where in A, Mr. Speaker, he seeks to find out what is the contractual relationship between Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, ZNBC, and Star Times, what it is, following the completion of the digital migration. And in B, what the cost of digital migration was. And in C, who the funders of the project at B were. And D, whether Star Times was still assisting with maintenance of the equipment of ZNBC as of April 2024. Mr. Speaker, in A, as to what is the contractual relationship between Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation...
Honorable Minister, the answers you are giving, they are outside the question that the Honorable Katakwe asked. I think you had completed answering the questions that Honorable Katakwe asked, and then you're answering a new question that is not on the order paper.
I'm well guided, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Next, supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Kafinsa.
Allow me, Mr. Speaker, first of all to thank you for the opportunity to ask a follow-up question to the Minister of Information regarding TV levy and the question that was asked by the Honorable Member from Shindamo regarding TV levy and the operational costs of ZNBC. Honorable Minister, in your response, you have informed the nation that TV levy contributes to 3.8 million kwacha of revenue for ZNBC. And from your response, the operational expenses are 20 million, meaning there's a financing gap of close to 17 million kwacha for ZNBC to be run effectively. These are the figures that you provided. Now, from that response, Minister, you are giving the nation the impression that it is only TV levy that should support operations of ZNBC. What is ZNBC doing to become an innovative broadcaster, a broadcaster that will have the viewership? Because without the viewership, Mr. Speaker, without me tuning into ZNBC, there's no value that ZNBC will get out of its broadcasting. So, Minister, my simple question, what other things is ZNBC doing to be an innovative broadcaster so that all of us can be tuning into ZNBC? Why should you tune into ZNBC if the programs are not that informative, if the programs do not allow me to enjoy other programs? I think my simple question, Mr. Speaker, is what else can ZNBC do to bridge this financial gap? I don't think we need to stick to the TV levy. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Information and Media.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would like to thank the Honorable Member for that question and indicate outrightly that currently the ZNBC Act is under review and will be presented before this August House for possible amendment and or replacement to bring the corporation in line with the dictates of the moment, to make it viable as a going concern so that it can generate sufficient revenue to run programming with content that is attractive and informative to the viewership so that it can continue to grow. And I would like also to place on record, Mr. Speaker, that ZNBC, as a corporation, in terms of being a media house and media platform, has the lead listenership and viewership across the country. And all we can do is to continue to support it to expand its operations across the country. So it is expected that with the replacement of the current ZNBC Act will come into play the positioning of ZNBC to be more commercially viable. Let me also just refresh the memory of my brother who has said that there is a funding deficit of about 17 million, to indicate that I actually did state in my earlier statement that from sales, ZNBC generates 9.5 million kwacha. And from TV levy, 3.8. And so that already takes the amount, I think if I'm right, to 13.3. So the deficit is not therefore 17. It is around 6.7. And that is where we expect that with the innovative proposals that should be backed at law through the amendment and replacement of the ZNBC Act, will bring ZNBC up to speed to compete as a going concern. Given that, Mr. Speaker, when you look at the broadcasting industry in Zambia, I think all of us in this house, I think everybody, we do have DSTV decoders, and we pay 1,200 per month. So, to ask to increase ZNBC levy is in order. The reason we pay 1,200 to DSTV is because of the content. And they buy that content. We have to equip our own national broadcaster to have the capacity so that when we pay, it will show. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Solwezi East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for the good response. Minister, in the past, ZNBC used to be financially cushioned with grants from the government, especially for capital projects, as well as operations. Would you confirm whether currently ZNBC does receive support from the government in form of grants or even a budget line to support its operations? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Information and Media.
Mr. Speaker, that's a new question. I thank you.
The Honourable Member for Nalolo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, thank you for your response. Honourable Minister, I just want to find out when the Amendment Act is scheduled to be presented to this House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister, since it's a new question, you may proceed, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's not a new question because I made reference to what he's asking in my earlier answer, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, as to when that bill will be presented to this August House, I await guidance from Cabinet, given that Cabinet actually has already approved for the IBA and the ZNBC Act to be brought to this House. So we await guidance from the leader of government business to be able to indicate to us and or through Parliament when these bills will be brought to this House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for your responses. ZNBC is a public broadcaster. I just want to find out, Honourable Minister, whether ZNBC is not pricing itself out of business in terms of advertising fees compared to these other private broadcasters. Well, thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Information and Media.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I have had no occasion to have sight or knowledge of the fees that ZNBC charges, so that I'm able to compare and contrast with those in the private sector. I would be glad to give that information if a question around that can be generated. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kabata.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, looking at the operation costs that are a bit high, and also the deficit that you have of 6.5, one can tell that most of this money actually goes to the workforce. I wanted to find out, because I know that ZNBC has got a bloated workforce, I wanted to find out whether ZNBC can consider to downscale the number of workers, looking at the high cost of salaries that they are paying to the workers.
The Honourable Minister of Information and Media.
Thank you very much. That question is a very important question by the Honourable Member of Parliament for Kabata, but it's, Mr. Speaker, that is a management decision in terms of running the viability of ZNBC as a a going concern commercially. As for government, it is our intention to retain all workers employed by parastatals and state-owned institutions and the public service. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, in the last under 3 years of the new Dawn administration, ably led by His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema, this government has unprecedentedly employed close to about 60,000 public service workers, meaning the President is in keeping with his electoral commitment to employ more people. Therefore, the focus of this government is to create more jobs and not to thin out those in employment into the unemployed disposition. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. We make progress. By prior notice, the Honourable Member for Chembe will ask on behalf of the Honourable Member for Bangwewulu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 68.
The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry was asked the following by Honorable Kasandwe. A, how much foreign debt the government owed as of August 2021. B, whether the government has been servicing the debt. And C, if so, how much had been paid in debt servicing as of March 2024. D, how much foreign and domestic debt was contracted by the government from August 2021 to January 2024. E, what major infrastructure projects were funded from the debt. And F, if no infrastructure were undertaken, why? At A, Mr. Speaker, the House may wish to note that the debt stock is reported on a quarterly basis. Therefore, as at the end of September 2021, central government external debt was $12.99 billion, almost $13 billion. At B, Mr. Speaker, government has been implementing a debt service standstill from October 2020, meaning debt service have only been made to multilateral creditors such as the World Bank, African Development Bank, and creditors that provide loans for priority projects, normally on concessional basis. Further, following the following progress has been made on bilateral creditors. As at end June 2024, the government was still engaged in active discussions with respective members of the Official Creditor Committee, OCC, on bilateral agreements. Once finalized and executed, the bilateral agreements will enable the implementation of the restructuring terms contained in the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU. For bondholders, as at end June 2024, the government had already completed the restructuring of the Eurobonds and debt service had resumed. And 3, other private creditors, significant progress has been made in restructuring debt owed to other private creditors. As at end June 2024, some agreements in principle had been reached with some of the private creditors. At C, Mr. Speaker, for the period August 2021 to March 2024, 291.6 million was paid as principal agreements and 137.5 as interest payments, bringing the total debt service on external debt to 429 million US dollars. Under D, for the period end August 2021 to end January 2024, total domestic debt contracted by the government amounted to 45.6 billion, 45.4 billion kwacha, broken down as 44.63 billion through issuance of government securities as net domestic financing, and 731 million through contraction of commercial bank loans. Mr. Speaker, between August 2021 and January 2024, government signed external loan amounts to 2.9 billion US dollars. This includes 1.3 billion from the International Monetary Fund Extended Credit Facility and 1.58 from the World Bank. Mr. Speaker, $1.31 billion drawn from loans contracted between August 2021 and January 2024 includes disbursements on the following loans which have had a component of infrastructure development. 1. Additional financing for the Zambia Education Enhancement Project, ZEP, which is being implemented by the Minister of Education. 2. The Green Resilient and Transformational Tourism Development Project under the Ministry of Tourism. And 3. The Zambia Agriculture and Trade Project, ZATIP-2, under the Ministry of Commerce, Trade. And 4. The Zambia Growth Opportunities Program, ZAMGRO, under the Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, in addition, the 900 million which was disbursed on loans contracted before August 2021 includes disbursement to the following ongoing infrastructure projects 1. Chinsali Nakonde Road Rehabilitation Project. 2. Kariba Dam Rehabilitation. 3. Kazungula Bridge Project. 4. University Teaching Hospital Modernization. 5. King Salmon Hospital. 6. Nakala Road Corridor Development Funds. And 7. Irrigation Development and Support Projects. Mr. Speaker, as earlier indicated, some of the projects financed by the loans contracted have a component of infrastructure development. Secondly, part of the disbursements on existing loans have gone towards financing infrastructure projects. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Any supplementary questions? The Honourable Member for Kafinsa.
I thank you, Honourable Minister, for that response to the question raised by the Honourable Member for Bangweulu regarding external debt. Minister, again, I was paying attention to the numbers that you were giving the public through this very, very able August House. As at 2021, external debt was 12.99 billion, which from your response is approximated to 13 billion. And further to your response, you've added that an additional 2.9 billion was contracted in external debt. In your last response, Honourable Minister, you do indicate the list of projects that were financed through this particular extra funding that you got. I wanted to find out, Honourable Minister, considering that we have an energy crisis at the moment, and we obviously want to resolve this problem moving forward. We don't want this problem to reappear. From the money that we are borrowing, is there a component that has been dedicated towards resolving our energy infrastructure problems? I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Honourable Member for Kafinsa for that question on the energy. Mr. Speaker, I don't have the full details of what he's asking for, but I know that part of the money went to complete the Kafia Gorge lower, which had not been completed, and the financier had withdrawn financial support because of non-payments, and they had to be convinced to release more money to finish that. I think that's the major one. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I also want to say that there are so many ways of solving this issue of energy crisis, one of which is for government to borrow directly or indirectly through the state company ZESCO. But the other ways is that of creating an environment that makes it possible for the private sector to put money in the sector. The result is exactly the same. So I want to say that we've since seen the construction of the Mamba 2 project, fully funded by mostly by private sector here in Zambia. So that is one. So those are the most immediate that I can think of, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Nakonde.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. One of the campaign promises that the New Dawn administration made was to do away with the debts. Mr. Speaker, one of the projects that the minister has stated that they have done is that of Kazungula Bridge. And Mr. Speaker, you can recall that Kazungula Bridge was done under PF. The question that goes to the minister is, what is the capital project? What are some of the capital projects that you have done, not CDF, capital projects that you have done from the date that you have accrued under your reign? Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and Honorable. First of all, I want to correct the Honorables. The Kazungola project started under President Levi Manawasa, MMD. Yes, that started under President Manawasa. The financing arrangements were done under President Manawasa. PF came in to take over, but we don't mind. We don't mind because development is a continuous process. So now, in terms of infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, in terms of infrastructure, we all know that there were a lot of high schools that were left unattended to. We just heard a question like that this afternoon from one of the honorables here, Chembe. That was only one example of so many high schools that were abandoned during, many of them started by the MMD and abandoned under PF, and now those high schools are being completed. Using government's own resources, using money from the World Bank. Okay? Some using money from the World Bank. So, Mr. Speaker, I also want to say that money, we should look at money in totality. Okay? We should look at money in totality. Because that is a single pot. Foreign money, local money, the important thing is infrastructure, is development taking place? And this is what is happening. I've given the specific example of the high schools. Also, I think there are a number of hospitals that are being completed under these arrangements. Right now, we also know that the roads, the Mpika to Nagwani Road being done, and very soon we'll also be doing the Mkushi to Mpika. So this is an ongoing process, Mr. Speaker. The important point is that this money is bringing development to the country. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
The Honourable Member for Chilubi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am hoping that I got the minister right when he talked about the money that was borrowed as external debt in by 2023, up 2021 August was about $13 billion. And what has been borrowed between 2021 to 2024 is 2.9 billion, if I got him right. If those statistics are okay, I want to ask, there is a perception that has been painted out there that the past regime overborrowed. And looking at these statistics, if the past regime borrowed that much in 10 years, it means that they were borrowing per year 1.3 billion. And of what PF borrowed had been borrowed in 3 years. And looking at that, I want to ask the minister, if this is not increasing debt burden, of course we forgo things like concessional loans and other things, and when does the government intend to put a debt moratorium, or a moratorium on the debt, given the scenario that we have overborrowed?
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, it is true that the previous government overborrowed. This is why in 2020, that government on its own, they declared to the international community, we are unable to service our debt. Defaulted. Defaulted means you failed to service the debt. Okay? No, it's not just COVID. So, Mr. Speaker, there is somebody saying COVID. There's a very serious drought now. There's a very serious drought now, which is even costing more money, but the debt is being serviced. Now, Mr. Speaker, the issue here is that Mr. Speaker, the issue here is that this government has come, restructured the debt, and now the debt is being serviced. Okay? The debt is being serviced. Now, on top of that, I want to say this. Overborrowing is not just an issue of how much money you have borrowed. You have to compare what you are borrowing with your ability to generate resources. So, a person like me, if I borrowed $5 million, somebody will say I'm overborrowed because I have no capacity to pay back $5 million, for example. But if another person who has a higher capacity borrows $10 million, it may be the case that that $10 million, bigger than the $5 million, does not cause a problem. Why? Because that person has the capacity to pay. So one of the problems that was there before is that as we were borrowing this money before, the main sources of foreign exchange, namely the mining sector, it was driven underground. Paying foreign loans means you need to have dollars to pay. Dollars come from the mining sector. KCM, driven underground. Mopani, driven underground. The other mining companies threatening to leave, which means that the capacity to be able to service the debt was actually going down and down. Now that these companies that I'm talking about and the many other new ones are coming on the scene, it means the ability of the country to be able to service the debt has also increased. Therefore, don't just look and say you also borrowed 2.9 million. Ask the question, what have you done to increase the earning capacity of the country so that this amount of money can be paid? And the story I want to tell you that earning capacity has increased and it will be continuing to increase in the foreseeable future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Chiengi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, you've been a minister in two governments, MMD and, in fact, Finance Minister in two governments, MMD and UPND. And when we used to sit this side, I used to listen to your wisdom whenever you gave counsel to PF. Now, I want to find out what has changed and why would you allow this government to borrow when we have requested IMF and other lenders to give us a breathing space. I want to know why you are borrowing when you know very well the time your grandchildren and my grandchildren will be paying back, it will be hell. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Madam. I thought the honorable member was listening carefully to what I said a few minutes ago. What I was saying, just to repeat so that maybe she can pay attention now. What I was saying is that it is not just a matter of the level of borrowing that you're undertaking. It is also matters.
Now, Honorable Member for Chiengi, if you had answers, why should you ask the minister? Because Honorable Member for Chiengi, you asked the question so that the minister should respond. And what is expected of you is to be attentive as the minister is responding. On the contrary, you are passing running commentary. That does not sit well with the House. May the Honorable Minister continue and respond to a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was explaining that, basically repeating what I said earlier on, to say it is not just a matter of looking at your level of debt. You must compare that with what you are doing to generate income. And I was explaining that the biggest headache that we had before was that as the loans were increasing, the sources of foreign exchange in the mining sector were being driven underground. I think that is something that everybody knows. Now, as we speak, the mining sector, KCM is back producing. Mopani is back producing. The Barry Gold Lumana mine, which had been threatened to leave, is expanding production to double production. First Quantum, which had also been threatened to leave, is also expanding, doubling production. New mine to open at Mingomba, the biggest mine to be seen in Zambia, is opening. So you can see, Mr. Speaker, that the ability to service these loans is actually rising faster. And finally, I think the Honorable made a reference to the time when I was the Minister of Finance. I don't know whether she was saying that I was also borrowing then, but I want to remind her that by 2011, when the government changed, there is no one who spoke about a debt crisis in Zambia in 2011. 2012, when the PF was in government, no one spoke about a debt crisis left behind by MMD. 2013, no one spoke about a debt crisis left by the MMD. 2014, no one spoke about a debt crisis left by MMD. Therefore, the debt crisis that we saw is one that was created by PF. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Rwena.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, you have indicated that Zambia became the first post-COVID country to default in 2020 on its first Eurobond. In fact, you also mentioned the Kazungula Bridge, on which we are also aware that at some point the country defaulted on its obligation and had to be rescued by another country which has an interest in that bridge together with Zambia. And that is not the only area where we defaulted. There is no single major road that was started by the previous regime that was completed successfully because they defaulted on the financial obligations. Correct. There is no single district in which new administration offices were being constructed which were completed because the government defaulted on its financial obligations. Correct. There is no secondary school that was commenced in the previous administration, Honorable Minister, that was completed successfully because the government defaulted on its financial obligations. Correct. Now that you have secured this important debt restructuring for the nation, are you in a position to indicate what our position would have been as at now, if we did not manage to secure the debt restructuring with the international financiers? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Nakoka. That is what is called wisdom. That is what is called wisdom. And you are absolutely right. If this government of President Hichilema had not come in, you can imagine what would be the case today, where the debt would have remained unattended to, where the sources of foreign exchange to service this debt would have been close to zero. Because even those mining companies that are still been operating, they all threatened to go. They all threatened to go. It had to require a lot of patience and wisdom to persuade them that this was a government different from the previous government, because it was going to nurture the industry to be able to grow strong. So with that, Mr. Speaker, really, I think we have to thank the Almighty that the UPND government came just at the right time to save this country from collapse. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Let's make progress. The Honorable Member for Dudumwezi.
Question number 69, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Member of Parliament for Dundumwezi, Mr. Singombe, is asking the Minister of Education as to how many classroom blocks were constructed in Dundumwezi Parliamentary constituency in the following periods: A, 2011 to 2021, and B, 2022 to 2023. Mr. Speaker, I wish to answer as follows. A total of 18 classrooms, thus constituting 7 classroom blocks, were constructed in Dudumwezi Parliamentary constituency between 2011 and 2021. Subsequently, from 2022 to 2023, an additional 14 classrooms, 5 classroom blocks were constructed, significantly increasing education infrastructure in the constituency. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Dudumwezi.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Minister, the people of Dundumwezi want you to re-emphasize. Are you saying from 2011 to 2021, 10 years, only 7 classroom blocks were built? And for 2 years, from 2022 and 2023, 14 have been constructed. They just want you to re-emphasize that point. Isn't it true what you are saying, Honorable Minister?
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Member of Parliament for Dundumwezi, let me emphasize. A total of 18 classrooms were built in 10 years. A total of 14 classrooms were built in 2 years. This is what you call prudence in order for us to put our children in school. and fair distribution of resources. So you will appreciate that this amount, if you've done your arithmetic and you know how to extrapolate, there will be more schools in this country. Yesterday I was saying that, Mr. Speaker, that this country,
Order. Let's avoid learning commentaries. May the minister continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And in any case, because we increased in the number of children in school, we had now to be in a hurry to construct more structures for the kids. And as I said yesterday, there were only 4 million children in Zambia. Within 2 years, there was an increase of another more than 2 million children in school. So we are now having 6 million children in school. So we had to be in a hurry to construct more space for the kids. I still remember, sir, when we just started, people started saying, where are you going to find the money to construct classrooms? We said that was a good problem for us, to keep the children in school, and then we shall expand. Otherwise, if we said, can we wait until we build schools? A person who is 6 years old, if you want to build schools, first of all, there will be 10 years before they go into grade 1. So we said this would just be a temporal setback. And indeed, the example of Dudumwez has shown us that within 2 years, there were 14 classrooms. Extrapolate now, in the next 3, 4, 5 years, how many schools are going to be there in Dudumwez? Quite many. And then the kids will have space. Yesterday, probably people did not understand what this really means about the children being in school. If you extrapolate in the next 10 or less than 10 years, there will be 10 million children in school. What that means is that half of this country will be in school, because we are only 20 million inhabitants. So we must care for the kids. That will be the future generation, because half of the country will be in school. So that is what it means. So what do you do? Yesterday I was saying that when somebody was asking me, where would you find money? That is going to be expensive when I'm talking about changing the curriculum. By its own nature, education is expensive. And I said, if you do not want to invest in education, try ignorance. You see what country you are going to have. So we shall invest heavily. It's only that people do not understand that when you sow a seed in education, the results are after 20 years. It's not like the sweet potatoes or maize, 3 months it germinates and then you harvest. When you put in a human being, it is 20 years. And this is what we're trying to do now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mitete.
Thank you to Mr. Speaker. I know, Minister, that you are not a prophet, but the statistics are very, very important. You've just said in Dundumwezi, within 2 years, classroom blocks have increased more than the 10 years. That is Dundumwezi. Is it true that what is obtaining in Dundumwezi is also in Lwangeni, Chiengi, Mitete, Liwa, Kaputa, Kwacha, Nakonde? Is it true that what is obtaining in Dundumwezi is also in Chipili? Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is, I don't know which word I can use, because true might be even simplified. Maybe I put very, 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 very true. Like I said earlier, This is across the breadth of the country. Everywhere, dotted around. Everywhere, without exception. Including in Chiengi itself, we are building structures. So you can say a question, that is your fault. Your own children are going to school now, whether you like it or not, and for free for that matter, Mr. Speaker. Yes. So at least you are not PF. At least you are not PF. You can manage to do that. But if you are PF, that one is PF. I wouldn't even be doing that. This is why the other time I said, if I was in their shoes, I wouldn't even be speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, the Honorable Member for Isoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 70.
The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Nakaponda, to ask the Minister of Water Development and Sanitation 3 questions. A, whether the government has plans to construct dams at the following places in Isoka district. 1, along Kasimbi River. 2, at Nansala waterfalls. B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. And C, what the estimated time frame for the completion of the project is. Mr. Speaker, in response to the question asked by Ms. Nakaponda, the Member of Parliament for Isoka Parliamentary Constituency, I wish to inform members of this House that A, as answer to question A, yes, government has plans to construct dams in Isoka district. Through the ministry has been undertaking a program to construct small dams across the country with the aim of harnessing water resources to ensure their availability for socio-economic development. Along Kasimbi River, feasibility studies and design of the dam structure will be undertaken by the end of the year, this year. And the actual construction will be done next year after the rain season. You may wish to note that at Nansala waterfalls, a weir dam is being constructed through the Transformation Landscapes for Resilience and Development, commonly known as TRALAD, project in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture. The project cost stands at 1.5 million kwacha, and the weir dam is at 95% completion. Answer to question B, Mr. Speaker. As stated above, along Kasimbi River, feasibility studies and design of the dam structure will be undertaken by the end of the year, and the actual construction will be done next year after the rain season. While at Nansala waterfalls, a weir dam is being constructed through the Transformation Landscape for Resilience and Development project in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture. It's the same question I've repeated. It is expected that the dam weir will be handed over next year, so that the weir will be complete. Answer to question C, the estimated time frame for the construction of the dam will only be determined after the procurement processes of a contractor is concluded. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Member for Kafinsa.
Honorable Minister, Acting Minister of Water, you have informed this nation through this August House that some of the dams that the Honorable Member is requesting to be constructed in her constituency will be handed over next year. Not all of them, but some of them from your response. You are aware, Minister, that you can't procure without budgeting. You are also aware, Minister, that once feasibility studies are done, there must be a design and there must be a bill of quantity, and then budget provision has to be provided. Now, from your response, you are assuring the Member of Parliament that next year there will be a handover activity of some of these dams. Can you confirm, or are you able to confirm, through this very, very important platform, if provision has been made in the 2025 budget for these particular dams to be constructed? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Acting Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Junior Engineer. Oh, now you're a fellow. Thank you for that question. Mr. Speaker, this is government assurance. When we state in this House that we are going to construct these dams, then take it as gospel truth that it will be done. Thank you so much. The man is.
The Honourable Member for Isoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister,
may you proceed, Honourable?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, thank you very much for your response. Because my people in Isoka, they walk a long way, a long distance to go and fetch water. So, having heard your response, I'm very happy. Please, make sure that the government construct these dams so that next year they can be handed over to the people of Isoka. Most of the times they were sinking boreholes, but they were finding that they are dried boreholes. So, having heard that you are ready to construct these dams, I'm very happy, Honourable Minister. Please do that for the people of Isoka. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. May the Honourable Minister, the Acting Minister of Water Development and Sanitation, comment?
Mr. Speaker, I think she was actually complimenting from the assurances that we have given. I submit.
Thank you. Next question, the Honourable Member for Kalabo Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 71. Question number 71.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a question by Honorable Chingamutu, a very good friend of mine from my Ministry of Energy days, to ask the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock 5 questions. A, how many veterinary laboratories were functional countrywide as of July 2024? B, whether there were any provinces without functional laboratories as of the date above, which is July 2024. C, if so, why the laboratories were not functional. And D, when the affected provinces will have functional laboratories. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry's response is as follows. A, answer to A, the House may wish to note that veterinary laboratories play a pivotal role in the surveillance and control of animal diseases through identification of pathogens that cause animal disease. This enables rapid disease control responses. Currently, the country has 8 functional veterinary laboratories broken down as follows. 1. The Central Veterinary Research Institute, commonly known as CVRI at Balmoral, which is a referral veterinary laboratory situated in Chilanga District. 2. Choma Provincial Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory in Choma, District of Southern Province. 3. Chipata Provincial Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory in Chipata District of Eastern Province. 4. Mongu Provincial Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory in Mongo, District of Western Province. 5, Ndola Provincial Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory in Indora District of Copperbelt Province. 6, Solwezi Provincial Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory in Solwezi District of Northwestern Province. 7, Kasama Provincial Veterinary Diagnostics Laboratory, Kasama District of the Northern Province. 8, Isoka Provincial Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory in Isoka District of Muchinga Province. However, it should be noted that the above veterinary laboratories are at different levels of functionality. Some are fully functional, while others still require strengthening in terms of staffing, equipment, and infrastructure. Answer to question B. Currently, the following provinces have no provincial veterinary laboratories, and there are 2 of them. 1, Luapula Province. 2, Central Province. However, Central Province has a functional district laboratory in Kabwe which undertakes limited tests. Answer to question C. The provinces in B, which is Luapula and Central, above have had no functional provincial laboratories because of their close proximity to other provincial laboratories at that time. Additionally, the placing of provincial laboratories was guided by the livestock populations at the time. D. In view of the increase in livestock numbers in all provinces across the country, my ministry is currently looking at possibilities of putting up provincial veterinary laboratories in the remaining 2 provinces, that is Central and Luapula, and some district laboratories in districts with high livestock numbers when resources are made available. Mr. Speaker, allow me to give some additional information so that members of this House can be clear. The House may wish to know that government vet laboratories in the country are structured in a tiered system. The first tier is reference lab, which is the CVR in Balmoral and undertakes most of the tests. The second tier are the provincial veterinary laboratories, which are currently in 8 provinces except for Luapula and Central provinces. These laboratories can undertake a limited number of tests. The third tier are the district veterinary laboratories, which are in selected few districts. These carry out very simple tests such as microscope tests and are used for sample preparations and pathogens. The last one is detailed tests under each tier. At CVRI, viral disease testing such as foot and mouth disease, which is known as FMD, African swine fever and rabies, bacterial disease testing such as anthrax, contagious pleural pneumonia, CBPP, parasite testing, East Coast fever, food safety testing, which is Salmonella, E. coli, and microbial resistance, toxicology, veterinary drugs residue testing, heavy metal testing, these are all at Balmoral, fish disease testing, molecular testing methods. At provincial laboratories, the following tests are carried out: viral disease testing such as foot and mouth disease, African swine fever, rabies, bacterial disease testing such as anthrax, CBPP, parasite testing, food safety testing. At the district laboratories, parasite testing, which is East Coast fever, sample processing and shipment. The lab network Mr. Speaker, is linked electronically to CVRI for sample tracking and validation of results. My ministry is upgrading 10 district laboratories which have a high number of livestock to ensure quick diagnosis and response to diseases. The district earmarked for upgrades are 1. Monze, Mazabuka, Namwala, Senanga, Kaoma, I'm sure that is good news for the Honorable, Mukushi, Kabwe, Lundazi, Zambezi, and eventually Mansa. And why is there a late release of results? Because this has been a contentious issue that some farmers complain that the results take long to come out. The key problem, Mr. Speaker, is power outages at CVRI. This is because the institution has no dedicated power line and it is supplied using the domestic power line. Some of the initiatives put in place to address these challenges are procurement of a solar plant to supply the institution, procurement of an inverter with solar-powered batteries, engagement with ZESCO on possibilities of having a dedicated line to the institution, and the use of a generator. Outages of reagents which we have tried to adequately budget for, so that we have stockpile of reagents. So we are now stockpiling for these reagents which usually used to finish. And 3, engagement with private sector and quasi-governments. So these are some of the measures that we are taking. Mr. Speaker, an advert has been put in the national press for the private sector to participate in the testing. Meetings have been held with the private laboratories. Regulations have been drafted to provide for private sector participation in the government laboratory testing and submitted to the Ministry of Justice for clearance. Another question that I'm trying to preempt some of the questions, Honorable Mewtwo, that you might come up with. What is government doing about the low staffing levels and equipment in the provincial laboratories? So I'm ahead of you. The following are the reason. Equipment have been procured and delivered to all provincial labs. Low staffing levels, the ministry is awaiting Treasury Authority to recruit more staff. Okay? Another question you might ask, what is government doing to complete the provincial labs? Answers will be, budgetary provision has been made in 2024 for completion of 4 provincial labs. These are Mongu, Ndola, Solwezi, and Kasama. Works have commenced and is in progress. Another question that I think this will be the last question that you might ask, what is the status of CVRI vaccine plant? Mr. Speaker, works on the proposed CVRI vaccine plant have commenced, and currently auxiliary buildings of the vaccine plants are being constructed at Balmoral. This is a design and build model and is currently undergoing a design stage. This is a 3-year program, so we anticipate that within 3 years the vaccine plant will be operational. Mr. Speaker, submit.
The Honourable Member for Namwala.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Speaker. Through you to the Minister. Minister, may I know how much has been allocated to complete the 4 provincial labs that you have just mentioned? I submit.
The Acting Minister of Water Development and Sanitation. Sorry, the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't have the actual figures, but since these are ongoing projects, it seems there is adequate funding available on this project. Submit.
As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes for a health break.
Right, glad that you've stayed tuned to Parliament Television, and the House has taken a 20 minutes break while it's considering question number 71, which is the 7th question of the day that has been posed by Kalabo Central Member of Parliament to the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock, in which he wanted to find out how many veterinary laboratories were functional countrywide as of July 2024, and whether there were any provinces without functional laboratories as of the date, that is July 2024, and if so, when the laboratories were, if so, why the laboratories were not functional, and when the affected provinces will be functional. We'll be giving you those details, and of course, the question is still under consideration. Namala Member of Parliament just posed a supplementary question, and the Minister just concluded responding to that particular question. But as the House stands now, it's gone on break. Just before we take a break,
Yes, and when business resumed at 14:30, Madam, the second Deputy Speaker did make 2 announcements, and the first announcement that he did was to announce to the House that he had received communication to the effect that in the absence of our Honour the Vice President, who is attending to other government business, the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, Honourable Jacob Jack Mwimbu, MP, has been appointed acting leader of government business in the House from today 30th October 2024 until further notice. And the other announcement that the second Deputy Speaker made was to recognize in the public gallery of pupils from North Park School in Chibombo District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, the second Deputy Speaker did warmly welcome the pupils and teachers to the National Assembly of Zambia.
But then after that, we've of course had 3 urgent matters without notes, questions that were posed by members of Parliament, among them Munkana Member of Parliament, Mr. Bimwe Mpundu, directed the acting leader of government business, and this hinged on mine safety following an accident in Chingola that has claimed some lives of some members of one family, which was inadmissible. Chairman of Member of Parliament, Mr. Yotam Tachalo, posed the question, the Minister of Infrastructure, and this is on the alleged road blockage in Chama District by alleged Malawians. The question was equally inadmissible. The Kushi Member of Parliament, Mr. Chisopa, posed a question to the Minister of Infrastructure and wanted to find out when a crossing point on Kushi River, which was funded 3 years ago, would be completed, and was advised to put up a question.
The second Deputy Speaker did permit the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock to render a ministerial statement, and this ministerial statement was on the status of deep tanks in Zambia. I'll be able to share with you the details of that ministerial statement. For now, we'll take a break and we'll be right with you just before 17 hours. Keep watching Parliament Television.